Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar today on 6 reasons you need an all-in-one software to manage your field crew workflow. All right, well, so let's get started. Got a tiny bit of construction going on here in the office where we're running this webinar from. So if you hear a little bit of noise, it should go away here in just a minute, but hopefully everyone can hear me okay. And we are going to go ahead and move forward and get started. So again, thank you for joining the 6 reasons you need an all-in-one software to manage your field crew workflow. Before we begin, just a little bit of house cleaning. So we're going to, during the webinar, if you have questions, feel free to use the Q&A chat as part of your Zoom controls. Answer as many questions as you have, anything related to the webinar, parts of the webinar, functionality that we're talking about. Get them in there and we'll definitely be able to grab those questions and answer those for you during the webinar. Also, we'll have a couple of poll questions going on during the webinar. So love your feedback on these poll questions. Make sure you answer these. This always gives us great insight into the topic that we're talking about. And then once the webinar is over, make sure to look out for a recording. So if you have other people in your business that you want to pass along the recording to, or maybe someone could join today, you can watch the recording. The follow-up email should come tomorrow with that webinar recording. So definitely keep an eye out for that. I'm Luke, and I'm the head of customer success here at ClockShark. I've been with ClockShark for just over the past 6 years as the head of customer success. And before that, I've spent the past 15 years or so serving customers, mainly in the construction and field service industries.
Yeah, and hello, everyone. I'm Hans. I am the co-host for today. I am the customer success team lead here at ClockShark. Been here for a little over 4 years, and my background is a technical consultant. So I used to set up server and networking equipment. I'm very familiar with field service industries in particular, and just that each business comes with its own set of challenges to overcome. I love presenting solutions and, making things easier for business owners.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Hans. Thanks for joining us here today for the webinar. So also, we have Felicia with us, and she is a customer marketing specialist here at ClockShark. She is the rock that holds the webinar together. She's on the back end. She's the main person answering your questions. She's been with ClockShark for I want to say about 3 years now, and started out as a customer support team lead. Now she uses her product and customer knowledge to help guide marketing messages. So really excited to have Felicia here on the webinar with us as well. All right, so before we get started, just, what we're going to cover today. So a few different things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about trends impacting, or current trends impacting field crew management, some common issues that come up when trying to manage your business workflow, and then how companies can efficiently manage their field workflow through ClockShark, using the ClockShark platform to manage your day-to-day kind of from start to finish. And then, of course, at the end, we'll save some time for a Q&A session.
And like Luke said, and submit your questions as you have them. Felicia will answer them through the chat if she can, or she'll save it for a little bit later in the webinar, and we can bring it up in context with the presentation. But we'll go ahead and get started with some trends impacting field crew management today. And we'll kick things off with a poll question. So, what is the most common way that you communicate with your employees out in the field? And this is a multiple choice answer, so go ahead and select any answer that applies. We have option A field management app like ClockShark. Hopefully you're not using anything else. Option B, we have a messaging app, Facebook Messenger, WhatsApp. Some people use Slack, something like that. The messaging app, though, is not to be confused with texts or emails or phone calls. So if you use one of those different things, go ahead and say that as well. And option F, something that we haven't said, other. And if you answer other, go ahead and put in Q&A what you're using. Go ahead and we'll let this poll run for a little bit longer. We still have answers trickling in. The leader in the clubhouse right now is texts and phone calls. So a lot of phone numbers being juggled, a lot of texts being exchanged between the front office and your field personnel. Emails starting to trickle up.
That's crazy. I figured we'd see some field management apps, but I'm actually pretty shocked at the amount of texts and phone calls answers that are coming in. So
yeah,
cool.
Not
We'll
surprising.
just leave.
Everyone has one of those things in their pocket, and just dial them up. But still, whether or not your employees receive that call, check that text, that can still be an issue. But it looks like we've closed that poll now. So the leader, again, is text, coming in at 79%, followed directly behind phone calls. So thank you for taking the time to answer those poll questions, guys. And that actually leads us right into a study that we found. And it's about trends impacting field crew management today. And this study has found that on average, an employee uses 8 different software applications at any given time throughout the day. So, they're using ClockShark, they're using emails, they're rocking out to Pandora on the job site, getting their mind right for the job that they're performing. They're getting GPS directions to the job site itself. Maybe they arrived on the job site and they have to go shopping for parts or something. So they hit up Lowe's or eBay, something like that. Of course, we already saw that a lot of people are texting your employees. So of course they have to open up those texts and read it. And hopefully they have an idea of where they're scheduled. So that's just a small little sample of some of the applications that any given employee is using at any given time. But we've also found that companies with 50 or under employees use many more softwares than just that. So about 40 applications in total, while those with over 100 employees use over 200 applications. So that's a lot of moving parts. All of these employees are using the softwares in different ways, and that just leaves information all scattered throughout the place and no central point to go back and reference. On the other hand, we found that 21% of contractors don't use construction software at all. So on the other end of using too many software applications, not using any at all is just as bad. Having everything done manually with paper can be just as big of a pain in the butt. So going on to our next point, we found that 70% of poor job site coordination is a significant contributor to budget overruns and missed deadlines. So if we turn our direction to the right over there, how does that lack of coordination manifest itself, right? The leader in that clubhouse is a loss of payment, coming in at just under 60%, followed directly by a loss of reputation, a loss of relationships, and then a loss of clients. All of that leads to, a loss of revenue, and cash is king. So it's really important to make sure that your job site is very well coordinated, and don't let that lack of coordination lead to any of those bad things that you see over there on the right. 84% of contractors also spend more than a quarter of their time tracking time and reporting project progress. And of your 40-hour week, that's over 10 hours every single week that they're just spending inside these applications, taking notes, copying notes, and pasting it in one of the 7 other applications that they're using. Can really be a hassle. So next slide, please, if you don't mind, Luke. So some other trends that we're finding. We found that 20% of your manager's time is spent actually manually creating the work schedule. So schedules come in a wide variety of, forms. We have the most popular form is usually a whiteboard with sticky notes or dry erase markers that's always being updated. Then you have to snap a picture of that guy and text it out to your employees, which we know a lot of you are doing. Then it's up to your employees to actually check out that picture, ask for shift swapping, all of that stuff. It's just a giant pain in the butt, leading up to 140 hours wasted annually by dealing with that manual process. So those two go hand in hand, just a lot of wasted time overall as it has to do with scheduling. So 80% of companies that were part of this study also said that they spend a significant portion of their work week chasing down payments. So, that's not good either. You've held up your end of the bargain. You performed the job that you've, quoted them out for. You've done it to the best of your ability. You came in on time and under budget, and now your clients are just ghosting you. So, it's really important to get that money that you're owed and rightfully owed and on time, because as we know, cash flow is king when running a business. And our last point here, only 40% of construction businesses say that they actually receive that payment within the net 30 days that they're sending these invoices out on. So as you can see, it gets worse and worse the later it goes after you send that invoice out. But late payments is a not good thing for any sort of business.
Right. Super critical to make sure you're getting your payments on time. So like you mentioned, you have that cash flow to either get, start the next part of the job that you're working on for that customer, or, start another job that's coming up down the road. So yeah, that's a great statistic there, Hans. Thanks for giving us those trends there. Now we're going to move into some common issues that come about when managing your workflow. And so that's going to take us to our second poll question. We'll start off with this. So among these top 6 issues, which is most challenging for you? Is it that delay in payments that we mentioned just a minute ago? Is it too much time spent doing manual entry? Are you having communication problems, the ability to talk with your field staff or anyone else in the business about a project or job? Are you using too many apps to manage your business? Is there too much paperwork going on? And then, of course, most importantly, do you have a hard time knowing where your employees are, what they're doing, or where they're located? So definitely take some time, another 30, 40 seconds or so. The poll question should be up, and answer that for us. Looks like we got this one's a little bit closer, Hans. So we got too much time spent doing manual entry, and communication problems are kind of the top 2 so far. Too much paperwork and not knowing where your employees are coming in second. Surprisingly, delay in payments isn't one of the top 6 issues. So that's good. Everyone on this call and on this webinar apparently likes to get paid, and they don't have any issues with it. So that's awesome. Cool. Yeah. So poll is closed now. Looks like we had a tie with communication problems and too much time spent doing manual entry coming in as the top 2 answers. And not far behind was, not knowing where your employees are or too much paperwork. So really appreciate you guys filling out that poll question. And we are going to move on. All right. So going into a little bit more detail about common issues when managing your field crews, right? So as we talked about delays in payments, right? This could be anything from, not getting a follow-up from your customer, you're sending an invoice, you haven't received payment, all of a sudden it's 90 days past due, you can't get a hold of the customer. That's just overall a problem. It also, provides a lack of security, right? So you don't have that cash flow to keep doing your job or start and do other jobs, and it's just provides there's liability issues or lack of liability for your business when you have a problem getting payments. Number 2, too much time spent doing manual entry. I know this is a big issue, and being with ClockShark for 6 years now, and going out in the field and talking with customers and being at trade shows, manual entry is one of the biggest issues that people have. So this could be a whole bunch of things. It could be creating paper quotes and mailing them, or having to manually enter everything into a Word doc or a spreadsheet and then sending it out by mail, or even emailing it to your customer. Maybe doing paper timesheets where you're trying to track down the time that your employees are working, and they send it to you on a Friday, and all of a sudden they're trying to get paid by Friday, and it's the end of the day. This one is a huge issue in managing your field crews, is all that manual entry. So definitely a big problem there. Communication is key, really. So communication problems are also a big issue when you're managing your field crews. A lot of that lack of communication might come between the office and the field. So you have employee scheduling, maybe you're trying to text or do a quick phone call, last minute changes, or you got to swap or take one employee from one job site, put them on another. It creates employee confusion, messy shift swapping. All of a sudden you have some employees working a lot more shifts than others potentially. And it can just cause a bunch of issues. And then job related updates, right? So you're working on a job, you have customer preferences, you have contact details, maybe they're changing, where you have a different contact you have to talk to the second or third day you're on the job. Maybe the job description updates, or there's a change order, or status updates, really anything related to the actual work at hand for that job that you're doing. Anytime you have an update, it could be problematic if you're trying to text those changes or make a bunch of phone calls to get the information back and forth from your office to the field, and then getting the information from the field to the customer potentially. So there's a lot of job related update issues that could happen when you're managing your field crews and communication. Too many apps. So like Hans mentioned earlier, right? One of those trends is, I think, eight apps on average for a company to manage their workflow. Some are using a lot more. Apps are cool and they're definitely designed to help you work, but when you have 8-10 different apps that you have to use to manage your workflow, it can be a bit much, right? All of a sudden you're switching back and forth, trying to get logged in. Maybe you forgot what your password was for that one app that you're using, and all of a sudden you're losing time there. In addition to too many apps, right? Too much paperwork. So the goal of apps is to try to hopefully remove some of that paperwork that you do. But maybe you aren't using any apps and all of a sudden you have too much paperwork. Trying to track it down, it's sloppy, trying to read and understand what was written on that paperwork. Or maybe it's missing, right? Somebody out in the field was filling out paperwork and they opened the truck door and the wind blew it away and all of a sudden it's gone. Probably an extreme example, but you never know. It could happen, right? So the last one here on the list with common issues is not knowing what your employees are doing or potentially where they're located. So, you might send your employee out on a job and then you don't hear from them until the end of the day. And most of the time they're probably doing what they're supposed to at the job site working, but there's always that element of you don't know for sure. You don't have any communication. Maybe they're trying to text you and the network is down or they can't get a hold of you for some reason. So you don't really know what is going on. So lots of common issues that can happen when managing your field crews.
I hear these time and time again too, Luke. Over and over again, I hear about paper timesheets that come in with coffee stains or footprints, if they even come in at all. And oftentimes they're filled out, like you said, at the last minute. And who knows if the information is accurate or not. They're just doing it to the best of their ability, 3-4 days removed from the work in some cases. Sometimes it's not necessarily nefarious intentions. It's just genuine forgetfulness and having too many things to be juggling, like you're saying.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was going to say, I remember in my previous life before ClockShark, I was working for a staffing company in construction. So we had employees all over the state and they were working all over the place and they got paid weekly. And all of a sudden, because it was all paper, they would be calling me at like 6 p.m. on a Friday, telling me they were still on their way back to the office and they had to get paid because, whatever, they have bills and they have stuff they got to do and they need that paycheck. And then they would bring me their paper information, paper job site information, paper timesheet. And I'd be sitting there at 6-7 o'clock at night on a Friday trying to read it, trying to make sure it was signed off on by the customer and the work was done properly before we could get it paid. And it was just a nightmare. So lots of issues. Definitely remember those days. So
definitely. Nightmare is the perfect adjective for it, for sure.
Right.
But let's go ahead and pivot our attention to how companies can efficiently manage their workflow using ClockShark. There's a lot of cool things that we're going to cover. So you may have seen some of these things, but stick around. We do have a brand new edition that I'm super excited to be, revealing today. It's really awesome. Now, let's go ahead and paint a picture of what your ideal solution is actually going to look like, right? So we've covered all the problems. What does the actual solution look like? Well, for one, there'd be no more manual entry, right? You're not having to wait on paperwork. You're not having to manually plug those hours into whatever softwares that you're using. You're not playing telephone with important messages. You're not having to send all those texts throughout the day because all that information is coming in as it should and when it should in a timely fashion. You're able to keep track of all the jobs that you're currently working on and all of their statuses. So are you waiting on parts for some things? Are you waiting on customer approval for another? Did someone call out and it's just genuinely delaying the project? All of these things are very important to keep track of all in one place. Does your solution help your team collaborate at all? Is it minimizing and reducing the other things that they're having to juggle all throughout their workday? Are you giving your employees a clear picture of their day and their upcoming week? And, a lot of times employees want to know what they're doing more than 12 hours in advance so they can prep themselves mentally for that type of thing. A lot of times employees like to see how many scheduled hours they have so they can set aside their budget. And, they have cash flow problems to manage on their side as well. So knowing how many hours they're actually going to be working at any given week is important to them as well. Again, are they aware of all the statuses of every job? And are they able to communicate with all of the key shareholders in your business? And ultimately, is this leading to your jobs getting done faster and getting paid timelier? That's what we need to know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. This is a great slide here because when you're thinking about your business and your workflow, it's hard to put it all in one place and think about everything that impacts what goes on at a day-to-day workflow for your business. So this slide really kind of encapsulates it and puts it all in one place. This is everything that needs to happen and everything that can manage your workflow in an one easy space. All right. So with ClockShark, we're going to go through, kind of more specifics and detailed info of how you can manage your workflow all in one place. And for some of the people joining us today are current ClockShark users. So you may have seen some of these features. If you're not aware of these features for some reason, definitely check them out or reach out to your account manager as well. We're happy to show everyone how these work. But we'll go through them here kind of one by one. So, right, it all starts with your job. So you're getting your customers, you're getting the jobs that you have to complete. And in ClockShark with our job flow, you can view a complete list of jobs and customers. So you can enter in your customers, maybe you have parent customers, you have a bunch of jobs underneath the one customer, or maybe it's just a one-off, you're doing a single job for somebody. You can enter in all of that information into ClockShark and keep track of those job details all in ClockShark in one place. Part of that process is job stages. So you'll see on the little animation over there on the right, you have ready to be scheduled, in progress, complete, canceled, on hold. So there's a bunch of different job stages you can use to help you keep track of the job in ClockShark. And on top of that, you can store a record of documents, conversations, and status updates for every job. You can attach all of that to the job in ClockShark. And a couple slides ahead, we'll talk about really cool ways for everybody in the company to either see that information or follow the certain job that they're looking for. So really cool stuff coming up on a couple slides in that. And you can discuss jobs and share files with anyone. So ClockShark gives you the ability to take all that information you've added about the job or all the details and share it with anyone in the business that needs to have that information. Maybe the employees that are working on the job or admins that are managing that part of the business and they need to know about that job. They need to see the files. So really easy to do that in ClockShark as well with job flow.
Totally. Love job flow. A lot of times customers put in, blueprints, detailed scopes of work in there, gate codes, if they have to enter a gated entrance, all kinds of information can be stored in there and it's all accessible right from their fingertips. That leads us right into scheduling though. So in ClockShark, it all starts with your customer that you're performing work for, right? So you add the customer to the system, you add the job and you set that status as to be scheduled. So that's what we're going to cover here. And as that animation is showing, it's very, very easy to schedule things in ClockShark. As easy as just dragging over the job and dropping it on the day that you're scheduling it for. That just takes a matter of seconds, and that would put it on their to-do list for the following day. If you do want to get a little bit more intricate with the details though, you can set specific start and end times. So it's very important that they don't start a specific project until 7 a.m. You can set that parameter up. And then you can even set reminders and send them to your employees based on when that scheduled event is set to start. One of my favorite parts about the schedule, though, is if you take the time to build the schedule for your employees, they're actually able to clock in directly from the scheduler. So it saves them a couple of taps in the app. They don't have to select the job that they're doing or the task that they're doing. All that can be predetermined for them. And all they have to do is check their schedule, tap a little stopwatch button, and they're moving about their day, doing the job that you're paying them to do. Another great thing, though, that we've just added in addition to the job flow is all of the details that Luke just painted, where you can add your blueprints, your scopes of work. All that information can be viewed directly from the scheduler. So they don't have to go and backtrack in their email, look for the attachments to find the blueprints or the scopes of work or the agreed upon estimate, all of that good stuff. It's really sweet, very, very easy to use. And it's one of the favorite things that employees like. They like being able to see how many hours they're scheduled for and just having a better view of, what they're going to be doing for the upcoming near future.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Hans, for scheduling. So we've got the job flow, the job information, that's all entered in the ClockShark. You've done the scheduling, so your employees know where to go, what days they need to be there, what times. And then naturally that leads to the employees or anyone in the company tracking their time, right? So ClockShark's mobile time tracking, I'm sure a lot of you are probably familiar with it. Most importantly, it allows employees to clock in and out from the job site, provides GPS information, which leads to admins getting accurate timesheet data. So that's number one. We talked about paper earlier, right? Too much paperwork, trying to get paper timesheets, trying to read and understand what those timesheets say. This solves all of that, so you get that accurate timesheet data. Your hours, the hours that the employees are working, is connected right to a job and a task. So they have to pick a job that they're working on and the type of work that they're doing when they're clocking in and out. And that attaches those hours right to the job and task. So with various reports and integrations, you can help with your job costing because they're picking the right information when clocking in and out. There's a few different options for time tracking. So in addition to employees using their own mobile app and clocking in and out on their own, maybe you have a warehouse or some type of environment where you want employees to clock in and out from a single device. So we have kiosk clock. Employees walk up to usually a tablet, enter a PIN number, pick their job and task, and clock in. When they take a break or clock out, they do the same thing. They enter their PIN number and then clock out or take a break. Really cool tool for those types of environments that are necessary. Maybe you have employees that don't have a smartphone or they have a flip phone. For some reason, they can't use the app on their own, but they're on a job site where they're working with a bunch of people or have some supervisors around. You can give people the ability to use crew clock. So a supervisor, manager, anyone with permission to use crew clock can go through and then clock in and out multiple people from their mobile device. And naturally, you could see where employees are when they're clocked in. And there's the Who's Working Now screen, which you can see on your admin website. You can also see it from the mobile app if you're an administrator or somebody with that permission. So it allows you to see where they're at, where they're clocked in, what they're doing. And then, once the employees clock out, all that tracking goes away. So you're getting the timesheet data accuracy, you're knowing where your employees are, but then the employees don't have to worry after they're clocked out. Another really cool thing to help with this process is reminders. So there's email alerts, push notifications that help employees remember to clock in and out. They can actually set some of this up on their own in their settings as well. So employees have a little bit of control there with what reminders they want to get. But you can also set up, based on the scheduler, you can remind them to clock in 15 minutes before the shift starts. You can remind them to clock out. There's a GPS fence that you can set up as well. So if an employee enters the radius for the job, it'll remind them to clock in on their mobile app. So lots of great functionality in the time tracking data, right? So to recap, you have the jobs in the system, you've scheduled people to work, and now they are tracking their time. And these are all the different ways they can do that.
Yeah, and the Who's Working Now screen is excellent, Luke. Like you said, an emergency calls comes in, you need to reroute some of your employees. So you got to pick the closest available resource, right? You just pop open the Who's Working Now page that gives you a glimpse as to what everyone is doing in real time. And then you're able to easily make those schedule adjustments and convey those schedule changes in real time. It's very turnkey. The next feature that we want to go and cover, though, is team collaborations with conversations. So Like we were talking about before, texting, emailing, phone calls, all of that sucks, guys. That's too much things to juggle, too many numbers to memorize, and just a hassle. It's better if everything is all in one place. So if you need to get important notes out to your employees in the field, or even just little reminders that say, hey, remember to check in with someone before you leave. All of that can be done right from within the system. This was our #1 most requested feature for the longest time, just being able to send messages directly to employees right from ClockShark, and it's in there now. What I really love about it, though, is you can @mention certain employees, kind of like on Twitter. So you put the little @symbol. I would say @Luke, hey, remember to take the jackhammer on site today. And Luke would get a notification right to his ClockShark app that would say the very thing that I said in my note. So it would be that little reminder to him. He could reply right away with, hey, I don't have the jackhammer. Felicia actually has it. So, all kinds of communication that can happen in real time. And it's just very important to have that streamlined as much as possible. Another cool thing they can do, though, they can attach and store important documents. So signed invoices. A lot of times people will attach before and after pictures on jobs, especially renovation jobs. Those are really cool to see. All of this is going to be saved for the life of your account, for the life of that job. And it's a single point of reference for you to go back and check all of your job history, all of your comment history, those living, breathing documents that are being attached throughout the life cycle of the job. All of that's going to be stored in one easy to use place. Like Luke was saying, though, even if you're not mentioning certain people, maybe you have a president or a key shareholder in your company who just wants to follow a very big job, right? We have that functionality too. So they can follow a job, and then anytime an update is made to that job or notes are left, that person who is following the job can receive notifications as if they were being mentioned. So really instant communication, that real-time aspect is crucial for delivering the best possible experience to your customers.
Right. And I think this is huge. So, if you're a current customer and you're using ClockShark and maybe you haven't started using the conversations feature, definitely, chat in with our support team or reach out to your customer success manager. We can show you how to use this. As we noticed from that poll question, communication was a big deal. A lot of people are texting, a lot of phone calls, and you don't need to do that anymore. So you can use your jobs in ClockShark. You can add all this information in, and then your employees can see it right in their mobile app. So get the notification, and it'll remind them, like Hans mentioned, if they can see it, you can mention them. This is a huge deal. So it's a really great feature. Check it out if you're not using it yet. It's a really good opportunity to help streamline your process.
And we forgot to mention no storage limits, right? Just keeps growing.
Yep. So everything everything you add is going to stay attached to that job, so you can see that whole history in your admin site as well. So anytime you're maybe trying to track something down, you can go back to the job, go back to that conversation history. All the details will be there on that job. So no need to try to track that paper down or look for that folder in the filing cabinet and look for information. It's all right in your system in one place.
Totally. So now we're talking about total life cycle management. So we've covered everything from you set the schedule, you're tracking the time, you're managing the collaboration between your team. Now that final piece of your ideal solution is actually receiving payments, sending those invoices, and even the quoting. It's super exciting. This is our newest feature, and it's really, really great. So if you wouldn't mind clicking that next slide, Luke, all of this can be done right from within ClockShark. Again, it's the overall life cycle management of any particular job. So again, this all starts with customers in ClockShark. So you're working for a customer, you're going to be sending a quote and an invoice to a customer, and you're working a job for that customer. So everything starts with that customer, with that person on the other end of the phone who calls you up to do that work in the first place. With ClockShark, though, our quoting and invoicing and everything is super easy, very easy to use, just like everything else in our system. Simple forms. You can make your quotes as detailed as you want them to be, though. So you can add as many lines as you want, different types of line items from billable time all the way down to flat rate items. You can just plug those right in and even save those quotes as templates. So if you do recurring businesses, you can save that as a template and then send that away, make it even easier for you in the long run. You can attach files to these things. So if you have lengthy scopes of work, if you have blueprints that you'd like to share or renderings, that can be included with the quote that you send your customer. One of the best things is you can send this right from your system. You can CC other people as part of the sending process. They'll get this quote right in their inbox. And there's going to be two options for them. They can request changes to the quote. So, hey, we only talked about doing 50 square feet, not 100. I request this change. That change order would be sent back to you, and you can make the changes on the quote before sending it back. Or the ideal option is they just smash that accept button. That quote can be turned right into a job for your employees to commence work on right away. Super easy to do.
Yeah, awesome. They can also decline. Customer can has the option to decline the quote. Hopefully that doesn't happen. And in the quote page too, you can use your company settings and you can create templates. You can create terms and conditions. You see the email message there. So you can set those things ahead of time, so you're not having to type it out each time. It'll automatically pop up anytime you're creating a quote. And yeah, it's a really great process for sending out quotes to your customers, and they'll get them right in their email. And you can see the status update of the quotes as well, right in your admin website. So
I'm actually getting some bathroom work done right now. So we had a construction guy come give us a quote. He told us while he was meeting with us, hey, give me 2 or 3 weeks and you'll have a quote in your inbox. I'm like, man, 2 weeks, I can't wait that long. So of course, I started looking around for other options. It turns out that quote did come through about 3 weeks after he said, so a whole week behind. And when it came through, it was a simple PDF. I'm like, why did this take 2 weeks to send again? But by that time, we already found another provider, and that happens all the time. So don't risk losing business just due to delays in quoting.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Thanks for that example, Hans. That's great. So you have your quotes, right? So we'll recap again real quick. You've gotten the jobs, or you're trying to get the job, send out the quote, then the quote's accepted, and you go and schedule your employees to do the work. They've gone through and done their time tracking. You've communicated back and forth about the job. You've done change orders. Basically you're getting close to completion, or maybe you're partway through completion and you need to get paid for the work that you've done already. So what's next is invoices and payments. So along with quotes being a brand new feature in ClockShark, we also now offer you the ability to create invoices and also take payments right from within your ClockShark system. So much like quotes, you can take those quotes, you can turn them into invoices. You can also manually create an invoice. Maybe you don't have a quote to go off of, or you need to send an invoice for some other kind of reason. You can manually create an invoice, and it's all customizable. So you can add line items with quantity, rates. You can even add in tax information. So those pop up, and you see that there on the little animation there. You never have to create another invoice by hand. Or maybe have it in a different system and then download it and send it out by mail, something to that effect. So this will streamline that process. Along with this, you also, when you send an invoice and it gets paid, you're going to be able to know that. So you'll know who owes you what. There's some financial reports attached with your quotes and invoices in ClockShark. So you can see, if people still owe you, if they're 30 days or past 30 days. A lot of great functionality built in to help you manage, the money that you should be receiving in with invoices. And by doing it this way and having some more streamlined process all in one system, you should get paid up to 5 times faster. And most importantly, you're saving a bunch of time that maybe you're losing trying to track down payments, phone calls, emails, showing up at people's houses, waiting for the payment in the mail. So a lot of great options here to send out an invoice and get payment. When you do send out an invoice, the customer has the ability to click the pay button, which you see in the animation as well. They can hit pay and submit their information and pay the invoice right from their email, essentially. So you get paid immediately. So kind of come full circle, all in one toolkit with ClockShark. All the way from job management, conversations, collaboration, time tracking, scheduling. You now have the ability to manage your business all in one place with ClockShark.
Totally, Luke. And this is the latest tool in that all-in-one toolkit. And like you said, it's a very flexible solution. So if it's a time and materials job and maybe you didn't send out an estimate ahead of time, you can take that time directly from the employee's timesheet and plug it right into the invoice. So you don't have to wait around for paper timesheets. You can get that information, invoice immediately, and expect your payment timely. Really a full circle solution.
Yep, absolutely. And if you're a current ClockShark customer and you're looking to try out any of these new features or functionality, you can do a self-serve trial right from within your admin website. So you get 14 days to check out some of these new features, see how you like them. We love getting feedback on this stuff. So we would encourage everyone on this call to really test that out if they're interested. You can always work with your customer success manager as well. And maybe that's Hans, and he'll walk you through the system, show you how it works, get you into a trial. If you're not an existing customer, definitely feel free to start a trial of ClockShark. When you have your initial trial, you get access to all the features within the system to try out for 14 days as well. So love to see everyone here checking this out and giving us some great feedback on these features.
Totally.
All right.
System. It's so great.
Right. Absolutely.
All of these things, Luke, too. I mean, going back to when both you and I started, it's come a long way. All of these things were heavily requested, and slowly but surely we've been adding them to make it the full solution that everyone's looking for.
Yep, absolutely. Exciting to have this out and give customers the ability to manage their business and ultimately get their time back, which I know is crucial for a lot of people, instead of spending several hours trying to get people paid or track down paperwork, manage their jobs. Maybe now on a Friday night they're over a happy hour with their family instead of sitting at the office trying to get work done. So that's what I love to see, and is our customers getting better in that regard. So we do have Q&A. I know Felicia's been cranking away, answering a bunch of questions. If you do have other additional questions that you'd like to ask, feel free to throw them in the Q&A chat. Hans and I are here to answer any questions you have at the moment. We got about 10-15 minutes left if necessary for Q&A.
I know Luke mentioned that Felicia's the rock of the webinar. I bet you guys didn't know that she answered 20 plus questions throughout this presentation. When we said that, we really mean it. She's been really kicking butt back there. You guys have been asking some great questions too, by the way. Some that everyone might want to be aware of, though. I mean, we've seen this one a few times. Can this integrate with QuickBooks? So yes, ClockShark can integrate with QuickBooks desktop and online. We can just export that information right on over there. Other programs as well, but that seems to be a popular one in the Q&A.
Absolutely. We've got a quiet group so far, or else they got all their questions out during the webinar. So we'll keep it open here for another couple minutes and just see if anyone has any last minute questions. One thing to mention as well, if you're a current ClockShark customer and you're liking what you're seeing here with this new all-in-one toolkit, or you're really loving the way it works, feel free to share it with other people that that are in the industry. We're looking to help as many businesses as possible streamline their process. So please pass along the note of the all-in-one toolkit to anyone that you're working with. It'd be much appreciated.
Emily asked an interesting question. She asked, what makes this the best for small business? Is there an employee limit? And, there is no employee limit. We have customers from a single owner operator employee to, 400 or 500 employees, and ClockShark works just as well. The solution is so easy to use and very flexible. So certain components you may or may not need, and that's fine. It's a very flexible solution, super easy to use, but most importantly, it's very easy for your employees out in the field. If you're going to be changing some processes and pivoting away from paper timesheets and manual processes, it's really important to get your employees buy-in, and ClockShark is super simple to use, easy to learn, and it really helps with the rollout on that front.
And Jill asked just a real easy question. After you can, so in ClockShark, when you're working with your jobs, Once you're done with that job and maybe you've moved the stage to completed using that job flow functionality, you can actually make that job inactive as well. So it's a feature that a lot of companies use. They'll mark a job as inactive. And Jill, you can go back and do a report on inactive jobs. So when you're running the report, you'll want to, there's a box to check where you uncheck the box for all jobs, then you can scroll through the list and it should show you inactive jobs that are listed. And you can pick those one at a time. Feel free to chat in with our support team. They could send you some screenshots and make a little bit more sense. But there's definitely a way to do that. So we can show you. Absolutely.
Another question from Ken. Can our employees use ClockShark if I only have Wi-Fi and no cellular data plan? That's a really great popular question as well. So in ClockShark, the app still works as designed with or without cellular coverage. So your employees would still track their time, select their job and their tasks, and that information is going to be stored in what's called the sync queue in ClockShark. So that information can then be synced when they're either connected to cellular data or reconnected with Wi-Fi. But all of that time and location information is going to be stored in that sync queue until it can actually update with our site.
Awesome. Coral Burden is asks a question about integrating with QuickBooks. Probably not the best place to go into detail on what may be preventing that, but I wanted to get you a quick answer. From your admin website, use the bottom right corner to chat with our support team. They can jump on a Zoom. We can even actually get you connected with our integration specialist, and they can walk you through the process to make that happen. So definitely chat in, get that set up. We can figure out what's going on in your side and get that taken care of for you. Let's see here. Questions are flowing in now. This is great.
Emily asks, is it available as a website for the employees as well? So of course, ClockShark has the mobile app that's compatible for both iOS and Android. But of course, if they just go open up a Chrome window, something like that from their phone, they can go right to clockshark.com, access it from the website as well. So yes, that is available from a mobile device.
Frank asked, how do you send a work order to contractors? So Frank, I think what you're referring to is, are you trying to send basically like the scope of work to the contractor? Are there contractors tracking time in ClockShark? There's a few unanswered questions in there. Of course, if you could put your contractors in as customers if you wanted to in ClockShark, and then you could send them quotes and invoices if you're using that functionality in the ClockShark system. Or if you want them to be tracking time as well, you could add the contractors as in the system, and then they could use the ClockShark mobile app to track time to specific jobs. So there's a few different ways to potentially get done what you're looking for, Frank, in the system. But again, yeah, feel free to chat or call in and we can help you get some of those details answered. Let's see here. Any questions you want to grab there, Hans?
Yeah, I was just replying to one. Can we see the schedule date on the job list page? Not the date itself, Norman, but you can see the status of that job. So if something is to be scheduled versus scheduled, that can definitely be a status that you set up. What's important though is your employees and you have access to the schedule tab in ClockShark. So if you want to check out the schedule, you can do so from the website, or your employees can just pop open their schedule on the mobile app and they'll see it as far through as you've scheduled in advance.
Awesome. Mark asks, can invoices be saved as a PDF and uploaded to customers? So I think, are you talking about maybe creating the invoice outside of ClockShark potentially, Mark? Or if you're creating the invoice in ClockShark, it'll B, the invoice will be attached to the customer that you're creating it for. So you wouldn't even need to upload it to a customer. If you have, I don't believe we have a bulk upload for previous invoices into the system at the moment, but that's definitely some really great feedback on potential things that we could do moving forward with that functionality.
So Leslie asks a good question, and Leslie, I'm sure that this is affecting other people. She asks, I'm curious if any other users here are facing the scheduling challenges we are. If an employee looks at their schedule early and sees a job that they're not excited about working, they call out. Does anyone else have that problem, or is that just us? And you're definitely not alone in that. Employees can call out for a variety of reasons, not just because they don't want to show up to that particular job. With ClockShark, though, we do have time off features as well. So if they call out, you can have a sick day, and you would just mark them as absent that day, and it would be removed from their available time. Or you can make that as an unpaid call out absence. The good news is, if that were to happen, once a job is scheduled on the calendar, you can just drag that job and schedule it for someone else. It's very easy to deal with those adjustments as they come in.
Let's see here. Paul asks, is there an option if the employee doesn't have, is there an option if the employee doesn't have an email address, essentially? So when you're adding your employees into ClockShark, you do have to enter in an email address and create a password for them. That's an interesting question, Paul. 99% of the time we've heard back in working with customers, if they just ask the employee, hey, I need your email address, or an email address that you can use, maybe it's a family member's email, it's not usually a problem. Never really heard people refusing. You could create someone an email address. So you could go into Gmail, create them an email address to enter it in. The email is really a great way for them to get the information about the app, though. So they'll get their download information, their login, their password, and places to go to download the mobile app. So it really is beneficial to try to enter them in the system with that email address.
And I'm grabbing a screenshot for one other question from Mark. I just realized, though, that I cannot paste screenshots here in the chat, so that was stupid of me. But Mark asked, we use a portal for one of our customers that need a PDF invoice sent to them. So yes, you can send them the invoice through ClockShark. That all comes through right to their email and all that stuff. But in our system, you can also download the invoices as a PDF. So if you wanted to, save that, download it separately, or upload it into another portal like you're asking, you can definitely do that.
Awesome. We got a few minutes left here, so we'll try to grab a couple more questions before we hit the top of the hour. Let's see here. So Ken, it's a great question. Sounds like you're in Ontario. And Ken asked, do employees in Ontario have to give consent to allowing you to track them using GPS? Not that I'm aware of, Ken. Also, I would caution that with, I'm not a lawyer or anything in Ontario. I don't know if there's any not weird, but if there's any Ontario specific rules. But typically we found, as long as you're sharing what happens with your employees, right? Hey, we're using this app to track your time. This is going to allow you to track your time a lot easier. You get to clock in and clock out. You don't have to send paper or write things down anymore. You can see your timesheets right in the mobile app. You can see your time off if you're using the PTO feature in ClockShark, and let them know if you are using GPS. Like, hey, this is how the GPS works. When you clock in, it's going to take your location. When you clock out, it's going to take your location. And it'll take a few locations throughout the day if you're using the GPS track feature as a company. Just complete honesty with what the GPS does, and let them know once they clock out, it's no longer tracking them, right? ClockShark has no interest in and taking locations of anywhere once an employee is clocked out. In fact, the app doesn't even work with the GPS functionality in the phone once they've clocked out. So letting them know that usually eases everyone's hesitancy with using the mobile app and the GPS. So it's always a good thing to do to share that with the employees as you're getting them into the system and using that mobile app. So
totally, Luke. Evan asks another question here that I want to make sure we get on. For project costing purposes, we use billable versus non-billable time, also the class field and service items in QuickBooks. So he's basically asking if ClockShark plays nicely with these fields in QuickBooks. And the answer is yes. We can mark as time entries as billable or non-billable. We can do class tracking. And in our system, our tasks are what correlate to those service items in QuickBooks. So yeah, all those things can definitely be tracked and then exported.
Awesome. So we just have about a minute left here. And I was going to say, we were not going to be able to get to everybody's questions, but if you are on our website, if you're an existing customer and you're working in your ClockShark system, or if you're on our website and you're exploring the website, there is a chat functionality built in that goes right to our amazing support team, and they are available to answer a bunch of these questions that you guys have, especially anything specific, that's a little more technical, gets into a little bit of the weeds. Feel free to definitely chat in or call in. The team is here to support you, answer any questions that you have, clear up any inconsistencies or help you with questions that you have to make things work correctly. Definitely. Let's see here.
I do want to bring one more up if we have time for it. One from
Go ahead.
Anonymous.
No, I was going to do the one from Rashida, but maybe we can do both if you want to go first. Yeah.
Sure. I'll go first. We'll get them both in. So an anonymous person asks, apologies, I missed some of the presentation, but do you have a function for supervisors to submit daily or event-specific reports for a project? So they're asking about weather delays, just random delays, event reporting, things like that. We have a tool in the all-in-one toolkit called Clockout Questions. So these can be sent to specific employees or all employees at the end of the day when they're clocking out or switching between jobs. It's just a little pop-up questionnaire, totally customizable. You can ask them specific questions. Was there a weather delay? Did you complete everything on your checklist today? Yes or no? And what really makes it awesome is you can red flag certain responses. So if there was a weather delay, for instance, and they answered yes, then you as the administrator of the account can be notified of that weather delay instantly. And we do have clock out question reports. So it's a really awesome solution that I definitely would encourage you to check out if you're already a user.
Awesome. All right. The last one real quick, I'll answer for Rashida. Rashida says a couple of employees called ClockShark support and were told they cannot speak with employees. They can only talk to administrators. Rashida, I can 100% as the head of success, and I work with our support team on a daily basis. They're more than willing to speak with employees, help them figure out any app issues they're having, try to work them through any process. So I'm not sure if maybe that's just a story your employees are telling you, but we have employees that call in all the time to our support line to get help if they need to with the mobile app or just have questions in general about using it. So let your employees know they are more than welcome to call in and chat with our support team. We actually encourage it. We love talking to the end users that are using the mobile app in the field. So
totally, Luke. And one caveat to that, account sensitive information may not be shared with them, right? So
correct.
If they're calling us up, hey, we want to close the account, this app is whatever, we're not going to give them that capability. We need to talk with the administrator in that regard. So, it could be something along those lines where it was just something very, company sensitive that we were not able to disclose with them. Same thing with like passwords, login information, stuff like that.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for that, Hans. Well, all right. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We're a few minutes past the hour and know how important everyone's time is. So again, just to reiterate, if you have some questions about functionality or how something works, feel free to chat in using the chat feature or call in to the 1-800 number and talk with our support team, or reach out to your customer success manager if you're an existing customer. We're happy to help answer any questions you have, and most importantly, show you any of the features and functionality of the all-in-one toolkit, so we get you managing your whole business all within the ClockShark system. So I want to thank Felicia for helping us out on the back end with questions, and Hans, as always, thanks for joining me on this webinar. It's a great one, and we'll look forward to speaking with all of you down the line.
Sure. One more thing, Luke, if you don't mind, could you advance the slide one more time? If anyone wants to grab a quick screenshot of the different ways to get in touch with us here at ClockShark, all that information is going to be here. We're very active on the social channels, so definitely follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and then, of course, if you need help, feel free to reach out anytime you need anything.
Yeah, good catch, Hans. I was so wrapped up in all the Q&A, I forgot about the last slide here. So yeah, check us out on social media, send us an email. Any way you want to interact, happy to work with you. So we'll leave this slide out for just another second, and then we will let everyone go ahead with their day.
Totally. And don't forget about the recording. That'll be coming in your inbox tomorrow. So feel free to pass that along and start a trial if you're not a ClockShark user already. We'd love to talk to you and show you some more things in greater detail.
Absolutely. All right, everyone. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Take care.